What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, and in today's episode, we have to talk about yesterday's legendary performance from Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors, and we also have to talk about what's next in store for the Warriors as they face the Lakers in a second-round matchup. Before we dive into that, though, I just want to remind you guys, make sure you're hitting that like button for me, and if you're new and you enjoy this type of basketball content on a weekly basis, make sure you subscribe, and as always, I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Yesterday, Game 7, win or go home, one of the best scenarios for a basketball fan to be in. We had the Sacramento Kings and their underdog story all year long. They've been one of the best stories in the NBA. It's been such a long time since we've had the Sacramento Kings being in the playoffs, and for them to come into the playoffs against the reigning champions, this dynasty Steph Curry-led Warriors, and for them to actually battle and go at them mano-a-mano and fight and go through adversity and play well and take games and, really, really battle, it was a sight to see. And specifically this Game 7, it showed why the Warriors are the Warriors. It was incredible to watch, incredible to experience. Obviously, a lot of us at home and our stomachs were, a little bit rooting for the Kings just because, again, of the underdog element, and it's the David versus Goliath type story and whatnot. It was a real feel-good story all year long for the Kings, so it's sad to see it end for them, but there's a lot of brightness in the future for them as they continue to build that team and go forward as the years continue. But for the Warriors specifically, it was intriguing for me, and it was such a statement game and a signature win, not only for us as fans and consumers, but for them and themselves in that locker room as an organization as they continue on throughout this playoffs, because it really embodied the heart of a champion that's in that locker room and in their leader, Steph Curry. When you look at the Warriors all season long, their biggest Achilles heel was playing on the road. For whatever reason, this entire year, the Warriors could not put it together consistently enough to win games on the road. It was a major, bizarre struggle that nobody really could have predicted. It was very hard to really pinpoint why or where this was coming from a team who had just won a championship. It was, like I said, very bizarre. So when you look at this series and the breakdown of it and the makeup of it, for the Kings to be the higher seed and have the home court advantage, that already kind of put a lot of, people in a position to put the Warriors behind the 8 ball because they weren't going to have the home court advantage, and it was going to force them to maybe have to win a game or two on the road. And when you start off the series down 0-2, it puts you in a less favorable position. It's not impossible, but the statistics and the stats show that most teams who lose the first 2 games in a series probably don't go on to win the series overall. And when you look at that, it went to the fact that the Warriors struggle on the road. So they lose 2 games in Sacramento. Not only does that happen, you also lose Draymond Green to a suspension. That also put a lot of us into thinking about Draymond, his future, and what it means, the position he's putting his teammates and the organization in to potentially go down 3-0 to a young, hungry team who they had already lost 2 games to and gave them extreme confidence to compete with them and really think, not only can we hang with them, but we actually can beat them. We can really do it. And for the Warriors to go into that situation, into a Game 3, and respond the way that they did without Draymond Green, that alone was a huge statement for me. And I felt like that's when the series was lost in my perspective. I felt like that was the must-win game for the Kings because not only do you go up 3-0, but you really kind of pull out everything from the Warriors and put them in a position to where they probably feel like the series is already lost because we've never seen anybody come back from a 3-0 deficit. And for them to not only win that game, they dominated that game, they took that game, and the Kings seemingly never really had a chance to win that game at all. And then you go into Game 4. The Warriors now have their confidence back. Everything's flowing for them. They're at home on their home court. Draymond Green, he returns. He's charged up and ready to make another, significant impact and to show why the Warriors need him. And they go in and win that game. Then you go back home in Game 5, and the Warriors find a way to edge you out in that game. And all series long, for the beginning of the series, when you look at it overall, the Kings and the Warriors were a bit close. You look at Game 1, I'm looking at it right now, the Kings win by 3. Game 2, the Kings at home win by 8. And then we get to Golden State, and Sacramento loses by 17. And then in game 4, when Draymond comes back, the Kings only lose by 1. And then you go home, and it's like, okay, this is where we get to take the lead back in the series. And the Golden State Warriors go on the road, and they win by 7. They still went on the road, which is probably the biggest game of the series, because it's like, hey, if the Kings win that game, all they have to do is just protect home court, and they win the series. So this is at the point where, to me, the Golden State Warriors not only, took control of the series, but it really was a nail in a coffin. But where you respect the Kings is the Kings respond. In Game 6, in my mind, there was no way the Kings were going to come out and win that game. I really felt them going down 3-2, losing at home, losing their home court advantage was going to be a bullet that they couldn't come back from. I thought they were going to fold. I thought that they weren't going to answer well to the adversity. They kind of had lost the mojo, and they lost their confidence. It was like, oh, it's the Warriors. We'll just fold and let them win this series. We don't really have a chance. But no, the Sacramento Kings go on the road, and they steal Game 6 in San Francisco. And not only do they steal it, they dominate it. They win it by 19 points in Golden State in a game that had everybody shocked. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson looking crazy on the bench. And you go back to Sacramento, and now you're back at home court advantage, and you put the Warriors in a position where they've struggled all season. They got you at Game 5 when they went in and won by 7 on your home court, but can the Warriors, the team who struggled on the road, can they really win 2 games on the road in this series? And the Warriors respond. The first half, tough battle. A lot of things maybe not going the Warriors' way, I would say, just specifically seeing Klay Thompson struggle. A lot of turnovers, a lot of missed shots. A lot of things looked to be going in the Kings' way. The crowd was behind them. They had the swagger. They were fighting. They were battling. Shots were falling for them early. And for the Warriors to respond in the second half the way that they did, it shows why they're respected as much as they are. And this is where Steph Curry becomes a legend. Steph Curry in that third quarter goes, 5 of 12 for 14 points. And you could just see the toughness in the Warriors just coming out. The champion in the Warriors just coming out. I'm talking play after play, possession after possession, whether it's defensively, offensively, the response. Klay Thompson was 1 for 12 or 1 for 10 in the first half. He hits a quick 5 points, pull-up jumper, fading out of bounds, cash, corner three-point shot off of a loose ball possession. Klay Thompson, cash, just unfazed by the first half struggles that he encountered and he went through. Draymond Green picking up a couple fouls and still holding and keeping his composure. Jordan Poole struggling in the first half. He had some shots in the second half that seemed a little bit more better and a little bit more mature playing off of Steph Curry. He had a shot coming off the screen. Kevon Looney doing everything in his will to battle on the glass. He had a few possessions where he had at least 3 offensive rebounds in one possession, and that gave the Warriors a chance to score, to have a second chance, a third chance. And when you have a guy as legendary as Steph Curry, a guy who can score 50 points, the most points in the ever win or go home Game 7 situation, the last thing you need if you're the Kings or any opposing opponent is to give him a second, third, or fourth look. And I think a lot of those possessions in the second half that ended that way were truly gut-punching, killers for the Sacramento Kings, and it took the air out of the stadium, and it really put a young team in a position to scramble. And I really believe that third quarter was it. And when you look at the fourth quarter and you go back and watch, you'll see a lot of the times where the Kings are trying to cut into a 7 or 8 or 9 point deficit in one play. A lot of time left, and I'm wondering why the Kings are just chucking up threes. I'm talking Terrence Davis throwing threes up, Fox throwing threes up, Monk throwing threes up, Keegan Murray just chucking, really trying to cut into that deficit before it got too out of hand. And an inexperienced team went into that, and to me that was a trap because you had a 9-point window with 8 minutes left, and the threes chucking up turned that 9-point lead into a 20-point lead. And before you know it, the Warriors starters are subbing out with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. That fast. And for them to overcome all of that and struggle throughout the season with some of these things and it not be a factor or not really be anything that you can consider in the playoffs, to me shows a true championship team. This is a team with a lot of championship pedigree. This is where experience comes into play, and it's not anything to knock the Kings, because I think for them to be a less experienced team, they fought. They won 7 games with the reigning champs. They went 7 games with a team that's a dynasty. These guys, Draymond, Clay, Steph, Steve Kerr, they potentially may have statue. I know Steph is going to have a statue, but when you look at the run that these guys had, they're going to probably include the entire core. You know what I mean? And if Kevon Looney continues to rebound the way that he did in this series for the rest of the playoffs, he may get a statue. Some of the performances Andrew Wiggins had, some of the possessions, the shots, the defense he played, this team really has the heart of a champion, like I said earlier, and I think they showed that in this Game 7, and I think it's nothing that the Kings should really be too down upon. I think, like I said before, they have a bright future. Keegan Murray was a rookie, you know what I mean? And I think as he continues the season, as they take this experience and the success that they had, and they see that they can compete with anybody, because, again, this is a dynasty-led team, one of the greatest players we've ever seen in Steph Curry, and this young team that was inexperienced with a coach in his first year with this group of guys, they went 7 games and made these guys feel that pressure and have their back against the wall, and I think that shouldn't be taken lightly. And as they continue to build with the core, I think that team is going to continue to make a lot of noise. But specifically for the Golden State Warriors, I find myself asking the question of, can they do it again? And it may sound silly because they did just win a championship, but this particular season that they had was unlike any Warrior season that we've seen before. And his roster, in comparison to other championship rosters, even that of just last year, is completely different. And I've spoken about it all year long on videos or on the podcast. They don't have that veteran group on the bench to come into games and really give them that experience or that meaningful punch to let Curry, Draymond, Clay rest or have a night off. Instead, it's Jonathan Kuminga, it's Moses Moody, who has had some phenomenal moments. It's Jordan Poole, who's either great or just not effective at all. And for the most of that series, he just wasn't it. JaMychal Green, Gary Payton Jr., who still at times look like he's injured a little bit. I mean, he had some impactful moments here and there, but like in Game 7, I seen him miss a reverse layup that I think normally is a dunk for him. So that makes me feel like, is he still hurt? And you also have the locker room situation where they talked about in Steph's Game 6 speech, or after post Game 6 speech and film before Game 7, he kind of talked about guys being locked in and bought in and committed, even with a role not being what you want or what you expect. And it's been rumored that part of his speech was directed at a Jordan Poole or Jonathan Kuminga, 2 guys who probably aren't getting the opportunities or minutes or looks or having the success that they want, and it's kind of taking them down a little bit. And I think that's a big sign of leadership, saying, hey, things may not be going your way, but we need y'all to buy in, and we need y'all to be fully committed and make sure that you're ready when your number is called, because what we've seen from the Warriors, everybody's number could be called. You know what I mean? Draymond Green's suspension showed you that. Out of nowhere, guys have to be thrusted into the starting lineup. Jordan Poole kept starting for the next couple of games, but they don't have that same, bunch of guys. Like Bielitsa last year was big for them. Otto Porter in previous years, the Sean Livingstons, the David West, JaVale McGee's, like experienced veterans who can come in for certain stretches of the games and be super bought into their roles. The Andre Iguodala, of course, he's still on the bench, but he's not able to be out there on the floor. They don't have that. Instead, it's a bunch of youthful guys, and their play style, experience, and, being locked in is something that you kind of expect not to always be fully turned on from a youthful group. And I think for them to prevail in this series with that youth, it was exciting to see. It has to continue to be a question for these next upcoming rounds, and specifically this second round matchup against the Los Angeles Lakers, because when you look at the Lakers, especially seeing how they dealt with the Memphis Grizzlies, you have to take them serious, and you have to give them some sign of respect, because at the end of the day, they do have LeBron James. They do have Anthony Davis, but most importantly, their role players showed in the first opening round that they are to be respected too. Austin Reeves can give you impactful minutes to help you win games as a starter. D'Angelo Russell could have a game or two where he is really lights out and is a factor. Jared Vanderbilt is willing to do every little thing that's needed outside of scoring and all of the flashy box score numbers, to go out there and win games. Malik Beasley can make some shots here and there. That's to be respected. Rui Hachimura can have a standout game where he scores 20-something plus points. They have, guys that are effective. Dennis Schroeder. So I think at that point, you got to come in and you got to take the Lakers serious. They have more experience than the Kings. They have more star power than the Kings. And they have guys who are hungry. And they're riding on the high as well because they were able to go in as a lower seed and beat a cocky, arrogant Grizzlies team that did a lot of shit talking. And not only did they beat them, they destroyed them, beat them by 40 in a closeout game, embarrassed them, talk shit back. LeBron had the social media Jay-Z bars and the mystical line of if you see me fighting a grizzly bear, help the bear, all of that. So the Lakers are on the high. They feel disrespected because nobody has respected them all season. I'm being one of the people just because when you go through an 82-game season and you have some of the ups and downs that the Lakers have had, what is there for me to really, I can't ignore that. And I think this is going to be an interesting series because you have the legacy of an older LeBron James. You have Steph Curry, who just did a legendary performance with 50 points and a closeout game. You have Klay Thompson, who's still trying to, prove people wrong. You have Draymond Green. You have Anthony Davis. And I'm looking at that guy. I'm looking deeply at Anthony Davis because I've seen some conversations on the timeline on Twitter and social media. Now that Giannis and the Bucks are out of the playoffs, a lot of people are turning away from Giannis as being the outright favorable best player in the world. And I've even seen some conversations of, hey, Anthony Davis is better than Giannis. And I know for some people that may be too rich, it may be too recent, it may be too recency bias based. But for me, I've always been a guy that's kind of scratched my head and wondered, why isn't the game, in the hands of Giannis and Anthony Davis? And I think that's part of my frustration is because I'm a guy who I look at Anthony Davis at a higher level than what he's given us over the last couple of years. And I really feel like we're supposed to be in a situation where it's Giannis versus Anthony Davis. Yeah, we still have Steph, KD, and LeBron, but they're more aging and older, and they're in a legacy battle now as far as who can continue to win championships and dominate at the older ages and whatnot. But as far as that next tier of who's going to have the game when those guys exit or as they're exiting, I thought the conversation, if you asked me, 4 years ago, before Anthony Davis made it to the Lakers, or when he first got traded to the Lakers, I would have told you that, hey, it's looking like AD is going to team up with LeBron. LeBron is going to usher his way out, and and AD is going to be the face of this his storied franchise, and it's going to be him and Giannis, and they should be meeting up in the finals. These two unicorn freaks of nature. You got one guy who's based in skill and finesse, and you got another guy who's based in strength and physicality, and Giannis. But over the last few years, Giannis has dominated that race and that conversation, partly due because Anthony Davis has had a hard time maintaining his health and being reliable to play games at a top tier basis. But even, when we've seen Anthony Davis play, it's these up and down moments. We've even seen it in the playoffs against the Grizzlies, where you look and you see Anthony Davis comes out and he has 22 points, 12 rebounds, 7 blocks, 3 steals, and is a plus 27 in the first game. And then in the very next game against the same team, after winning by 16, they lose by 10, and he goes 4 for 14, which is 28% from the field. He has 13 points, 9 rebounds, still has 5 blocks, and he's a -4. So for me, as a fan of Anthony Davis, I'm looking and I'm asking myself, how the hell did we get Anthony Davis from shooting the ball 17 times, close to 20 times, to 14 times? And why does he only have 13 points? Like, at the least, Anthony Davis should be shooting almost 20 shots a game. Even when he scores 22 on 17 shot attempts, I'm asking myself, why didn't you shoot at least 20? Every game the Lakers go into, Anthony Davis should be pre-programming his brain to say, I'm shooting 20 shots. I'm shooting 20 shots. I'm getting some shots close to the rim. I'm going to take some guys out to the mid-range. I may attempt 1-3. I'm putting my head down and creating for myself. I'm picking and rolling. I'm getting some lobs, put back opportunities. Like Anthony Davis should shoot no less than 20 shots a game for the Los Angeles Lakers. Him and LeBron James should be at the top of each box score in shot attempts. And if I'm being honest with you, Anthony Davis should shoot a couple more shots than LeBron James, considering how close he's going to be to the basket. And then in game 3, what do you get? Anthony Davis shoots 24 shots. He makes 11 of 24, shoots 46% from the field. He shot 4 threes. He got to the free throw line 10 times, 17 rebounds compared to the 9 in game 2, 3 blocks, 2 steals. He had a plus-minus of plus 12, 31 points. How do you go from 13 points to 31, 14 shots to 24? What happened? What's going on here? You know, as good as Jaren Jackson is as Defensive Player of the Year, Anthony Davis is a monster. Anthony Davis is not like a lot of NBA players. The fluidity he has and the mobility he has at his size, the shooting touch, the length to catch lobs sky high, to be able to face guys up. Anthony Davis is a lethal basketball player. And then I look at myself and I go right to game 4, and I'm like, okay, Anthony Davis got his stuff back together, 31 points after 13. And he has 12 points. A -3, 11 rebounds, still got 4 blocks. 26 blocks in 6 games is ridiculous for Anthony Davis, by the way. But 4 of 13, 30% from the field. How do you go from scoring 13 to 31 to 12? How do you go from shooting 24 shots to shooting 13? And you played more minutes. You played 41 minutes, which is the most minutes you played in this entire series. And I think that's the part where it can get frustrating for Anthony Davis, because when he's hurt and, you know, his body is just not doing him any good, that's out of his control. He can't control the fact that he gets hurt a lot. You know what I mean? Like he's not trying to hurt himself. He doesn't want to miss games. He doesn't want to have to go back to the locker room. So I cut him some slack in that department. But when I see him playing 40 minutes, 38 minutes, 37 minutes, I really don't think that there's an excuse or a reason or there's any matchup that can allow Anthony Davis to shoot less than 15 shots. And that's me being nice, because I truly think that this dude should be shooting 20 shots per game. And then again, after 12 points, he bounced back and has a 31-point performance. He's a +6, 19 rebounds, 19. 2 blocks again, 14 of 23, 60% from the field. That's Anthony Davis for you on the road. And then the last game, the closeout game against the Memphis Grizzlies, they win by 40. He don't even play 30 minutes. 16 points, 14 rebounds, 5 blocks, shot 67% from the field, 6 of 9. That's a night off damn near, the way that they handle them. So I'm looking at Anthony Davis in this series to continue to have some of these 31-19 type performances, 31-17 type performances, 22, 12, and 7 block type performances. I think if Anthony Davis gives us that level of performance, the Lakers can win this series, and the conversation can start turning to Anthony Davis getting back to the higher echelon of the NBA. That he's that good already, but I think we're missing that playoff run outside of the bubble, and that moment where we see LeBron James pass the torch to Anthony Davis. I think it can be in this playoffs, and I would love that. And a lot of people have called me a Laker hater because I haven't picked them against the Grizzlies, or because I've criticized them for some of the bad basketball they played all season long, and the blown leads and the inconsistencies and the scapegoating on Frank Vogel and Russ and all of these different situations, which is what I'm going to do to any and every team that's struggling or not having the type of year that a lot of people project for them, especially when you hold yourself to a championship or bust type magnitude. If you're fighting to get into the playoffs, you're going to get criticized. But in all reality, I think this can line up for a good playoff run for not only the Lakers, but the career of Anthony Davis, because it's time for him to position himself as one of the great players in his league again. And I think people respect that and know that about him, but we just haven't seen it. You know, a lot of these last few playoff runs, he's been injured and in and out, and we see spurts of greatness, and then we don't see him. Like when you look at the 2021 playoffs against the Suns, they lost in 6. He didn't play in game 5. He only played 19 minutes in game 4. And he played 5 minutes in game 6 when he tried to give it a go. Game 1, again, Anthony Davis plays 38 minutes, 5 for 16, 31% from the field, 0-2 from 3, only 5 free throws, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 13 points, negative 18. But then you look at the 2 games after that, the Lakers win both games, 7 of 15, 34 points, 10 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 blocks, 21 free throw attempts. 21. He's that good. He's that good. The very next game, 34 points again. He's a plus 11, 11 rebounds, 1 block. He's 12 of 14 from the free throw line, and he's 11 of 22 from the field at 50%. That's the Anthony Davis that I think could be one of the top players in the game, especially if the Lakers are going into the playoffs and going on playoff runs and position themselves to potentially fight for a championship title. They're going to have their work cut out for them against an experienced, well-oiled machine in the Golden State Warriors because the offense is so fluid. It's so intricate. The Lakers are going to be forced to get back on defense. The Lakers are going to be forced to communicate. The communication is going to have to be on an all-time high level. And Steph Curry right now is playing as the best player in the world. The only guy that can really compete against him for that title is Jimmy with some of the playoff performances he had to close out the series against the Bucks. The 56, the 42, it's hard to argue against, but right with them is Steph Curry. And the Lakers don't really have the perimeter defenders to really challenge or, try to contain him to any capacity. And I think that's going to be a big hole for them. I think also, like I said, the fact that the Warriors offense is so intricate with the backdoors, the screening, it's going to involve the Lakers to have to really have their communication at an all-time high. And the Lakers are capable. They are capable, but I think if it's one of the major weaknesses, the Lakers don't communicate as well. And I think the Grizzlies even showed that, and they had a lot of opportunities to score and hit down perimeter shots, but a guy like Dylan Brooks just wasn't making shots. Desmond Bane wasn't making shots. But the interior defense is going to be there with Anthony Davis, and I think if you can at least cut that off, it should be good because the Warriors, especially in the Game 7, was really going at Domantas Sabonis, and it was even stretches where Trey Lyles provided some better interior defense, and he's night and day against Anthony Davis and what he can provide. But if the Warriors are able to shoot and be comfortable in the flow of their offense and also attack you in the paint, you're not really going to be able to win games at all. So I think a lot of this relies largely in the hands of Anthony Davis for the Lakers to have a chance because he's going to protect the paint, make them shoot a lot more shots and have to settle. And then offensively, when I look at Kevon Looney, I look at Draymond Green. Draymond Green, as good of a defender as he is, I don't think he can really hang with Anthony Davis, and Draymond might actually get the LeBron James assignment. So if you got Kevon Looney trying to keep up with Anthony Davis, no. No. And in the way Kevon Looney rebound, you want to see Anthony Davis have these monster rebound games of 17, 19, 14 rebounds. You want to see him have these 7 blocks, 5 blocks, 4 blocks, 5 block performances that we've gotten accustomed to seeing. This is a guy who, when we talk about the first version of Anthony Davis as a playoff performer, you look at his first series against the Warriors. First game, his first playoff game ever, he had 35, 7, and 4 blocks, and he shot 56% from the field, 9 to 10 from the free throw line. The Warriors won by 7 because they were just a better team. Second game, Anthony Davis gives you 26 and 11 with 2 blocks, 9 to 22, 8 to 8 from the free throw line. Third game, he goes 29 and 15 with 3 blocks again. He's a +3. They lose that game by 4 because, again, they just can't hang with the Warriors. But, gets to the free throw line 9 times again. In this entire series, they got swept. They lose the last game by 11. He gives you 36 and 11 with 3 blocks, and he gets you to the free throw line 9 times again. In this entire series, he shot no less than 8 free throws a game. Second playoffs against Portland, 35 and 14 with 4 blocks. 22 and 12 with 2 blocks. 9 of 18, 14 of 26, 11 of 18 with 28 points, 11 rebounds, 2 blocks again, 7 free throws, 5 free throws, 9 free throws. And in the closeout game to sweep Portland and Damian Lillard, he gave you 47 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 15 of 23 for 65% from the field, 15 of 17 at the free throw line. Anthony Davis is more than capable of still giving you these type of performances. It's just about being consistent and being engaged night in and night out and coming in and telling yourself, I'm shooting 20 times. I'm going to have this first playoff performance against the Warriors. He didn't shoot less than 20 times. The least amount of shot attempts he had was in game 4, 20 shot attempts, 22, 22, 23. This second playoff run, he had 26 shots in the first game, 18, 18, 23. The second round, they played against the Golden State Warriors again. This time, they won 5 games instead of 4. He had 20 shots, 24, 27, 22, 26. And his stat line, 34 19, 26 and 12, 33 and 18, 25 and 15, 21 and 10. 10 free throws, 9. He had a game with 25 and 15 with no free throws. But Anthony Davis is again, more than capable. The bubble, 28 and 11, 31 and 11, 29 and 11, 29, 11, 8, and 8 assists with 3 blocks. 43 points, 9 rebounds for Anthony Davis. And he shot 13 free throws, 10 free throws, 14, 17. A monster. 37 against Denver in the game 1. Which one is the one when he shot the game-winning shot? Is that the 31 points? It's just like 34 points. Anthony Davis, it's your time to shine. That's what I want to see from that series. Like I said, with the Warriors, it all goes down to Steph Curry being the best player on the planet for them to win that series. I think there's nobody on the Lakers that can check him, that can stop him. So I think it's about if he's going to be able to single-handedly win them this series in totality, because I think, Klay is going to do Klay things, and you want to see him have his best performances. I think Andrew Wiggins could be an X factor because of a lot of the attention is going to Steph. And they're going to need somebody to step up. And what can that bench do? Can Jordan Poole have some of those performances that got him that bag in this round? Is Kuminga going to get minutes? Can Moses Moody, replicate some of the moments he had against Sacramento? Will the size of the Lakers bother the Warriors? I think there's a lot of different questions there, and I'm super, super interested and ready to watch this series. But for me, I want to see Anthony Davis take that next step. Y'all let me know how y'all feel in the comments. What are y'all thoughts? Is Steph Curry the best player in the game right now? How do you think the Warriors and the Lakers matchup is going to go? What do you lean to more? Are you more confident in the Lakers and their size and Anthony Davis being that guy, or are you still rolling with the reigning champions who time and time again find a way to win? And they're actually going to have home court advantage in this series, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another plus for the Warriors. But as always, I appreciate y'all. I am Pee Wee the Plug. This is NBA Weekly. I'll see y'all next time. I'm out. Peace.